She's one of many victims who have pinned their hopes on this second Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Summit. The 22-year-old claims that she and her sisters have been sexually violated by their father for years. But she drew a line after her daughter was allegedly raped by her father last year. After fleeing to a shelter, they helped her to open a case, but still no action.
My daughter is now 4 years old. At the age of 3, he raped her. She came to me crying, "Mama, see what Papa did," because she calls him Papa. And there was blood all over her panties. I opened a case in Centurion Littleton Police Station, and till today they've been saying that they are investigating. They transferred the case to Windsorton Police Station where he's at, and nothing has happened yet. So I feel like the justice system to this point has failed me, and I'm literally fearing for my life because it was to a point whereby the men held me hostage.
Chilling testimonies like these continue to bear evidence of the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide countrywide.
The real issue is that women and children are raped every day. As I speak to you now, a woman's being raped somewhere in South Africa.
4 years since the first presidential summit against gender-based violence and femicide, shelters who protect victims say it's almost as if the summit never took place.
Unfortunately, there's no change. And as NGOs, we partner with government, we partner with communities. So we don't want to carry a red pen, but this time around, I've got a red pen. Red pen being beneficiaries come to our shelters having been emotionally and physically damaged, but they always point at the police to say that I opened a case, I was raped, nothing has happened.
Since the last summit, about 1.6 billion rand was allocated to fight GBVF. Civil rights movement Not In My Name wants to know how was this money spent.
Where did that money go to? How did it work? Because for us as organizations that are on the ground on a daily basis, we don't see how these summits are really helping.
Mandisa Khanyile was one of the organizers of the 2018 Total Shutdown Movement March. She also played a pivotal role during the first presidential GBVF summit. She says the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown reversed many of the gains made in 2018. She's currently on the Presidential Summit Planning Committee for the second summit.
We then started seeing the political will and the momentum kind of die. And at that particular point was when we launched this very national strategic plan for gender-based violence and femicide. Now, you launch a plan in the middle of a pandemic with the implementers all basically kind of paralyzed by lockdowns. What happens then? We then see that in the past 2 years with the COVID pandemic, that this NSP hasn't really seen the light of day. One of the 5 key asks from the last summit was the decriminalization of sex work. We have barely moved on there. We were supposed to have a GBV council, which one of the 3 themes of this particular summit is accountability, acceleration, and amplification now. How do we have accountability when the structure that's supposed to be overlooking the GBVF response in this country doesn't exist?
Meanwhile, the Commission for Gender Equality is calling for the National Council on GBVF to be finalized, while Not In My Name wants all police stations to be victim sensitive and must always have rape kits.
We making the right noises, but insofar as winning the battle and the war against gender-based violence, we are not. The numbers are alarming very high. We are grateful that the Presidential Summit has opened a lot of avenues and a lot of show us loopholes that are there that need to be arrested as a matter of agency. One of it, we were supposed to have by now a National Council of Gender-Based Violence that will coordinate all the statistics and have a country strategy embedded in one structure.
Have a dedicated gender-based violence desk at police stations where these people are clearly trained with regards to how to deal with somebody who is been raped, abused, whatever the case may be, at front desk, where you don't have police saying,
I mean, we've seen the judiciary make horrendous judgments in certain cases where it shouldn't be. How are we holding the judiciary accountable? We've seen the SABC do very questionable things over the past 4 years. How are we holding them to account? We've seen social development. How are we holding all the key stakeholders to account? And not just that, we need to hold civil society to account as well.
The backlog and mishandling of DNA tests and results is another alarming challenge for the Commission. They want this to be addressed to ensure swift justice for victims. This, as the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide will also come under the spotlight this week. One of the core reasons for this second summit is to assess and properly interrogate the recommendations stipulated in this National Strategic Plan. Role players believe that this might help to accelerate accountability, but perhaps most importantly, put the interests of victims first. Patricia Fasachi, SABC News in Midrand.